Morning. Yo. This is going to be an interesting one. This is going to be an interesting one. Do we have news today? Pretty sure today was unemployment, was it not? Oh, it was already unemployment, yeah. And PMI tomorrow. PMI tomorrow. Awesome, Sean. I'll check that out very soon, my friend. I usually do a bunch of stuff in the morning, and I don't get a chance to check out anything overnight unless there's something major that's going on. I kind of just respond a little bit to things in the Discord, and then when I get a chance when I come home after dropping her off, then I kind of respond to messages and stuff, because usually there's ones from the trading day as well. So this will be cool. I just had a look. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Look forward to chatting about it. Good morning. So, multi-timeframes on steroids. Failure underneath. Already came down, mitigated. We're now breaking above this. If we're looking for specific areas where price should reverse, you've got your area here, right? Perhaps an SNDR in here, the broken SNDR. If it wants to reach higher, then we got 2175 here. I think that lines up quite nicely with this as well. We're likely going to find out pretty quick. There's one valid swing other than dropping down into the midpoint of this zone here, which is around 80s, I'd say. Not seeing a lot in the 15-minute, obviously, as we open up. Structure still bullish, still respecting prior zones, driving higher. This inducement is possible, but I'm certainly not eager to short. If we get something short, what will likely happen is you'll have this on your intermediate time frame, which will then break, and then we'll have your second distribution will likely drop down either into this zone, or we'll drop into the midpoint here, those 80s that we talked about. That would be beautiful. I'm going to sit on my hands for the first 10 minutes or so as this is just continuing to melt up. These kind of trends are always kind of fun because you've got things like this where that high 808, that's actually equal highs. I don't know why that's like that. Let's go middle line and a bit of a border. So it can be like this movement is of a higher time frame. We have one swing. One swing. So we kind of look and we go, we don't want to go long in here at all. And that only works. So for example, you might look at this move from 595 to 733. That's 140 points. Well, that's too high to buy in here, and it goes up another 180. That's a dangerous method of thinking, because if you think it's too high to buy, essentially you're looking short, and that's not accurate either. What you're looking at is where the objective is. Where the objective is. So fast out, fast back in. We'll see if we get something at the 780 level. I think that aligns pretty nicely with this. I think it'll go a little bit under that, but you'll see that this area actually lines up quite nicely with the SNDR. This actually has to be adjusted now. I would adjust it back up to here. You could argue this being manipulation. I think that's valid and fair. The concern obviously is if we're hitting our higher time frame retracement level that it's going to knife through here. It's going to knife through there. Right? But we might get a little bounce out of this depending on if it triggers. What I would need to see would be some sort of buying inducement. If it just knifes through, you might get an aggressive trade. This would be the area that would occur. All right, I'm actually going to take this box off because it's killing my eyes. Right, so there's 780. Oh, it was 680 we were talking about. My mistake. Right? But we are dropping into the only spot of a 15-minute time frame that has any sort of structure. So I do expect a bounce out of here. That bounce would likely deliver us back up. And then if we're going to continue lower to 680 or so, you'll see something else go on. Unless it just decides that it's done and it wants to blast through it entirely. Right? Obviously no trigger in here for me at all or anything yet. But you guys can understand why not looking long anymore. We've achieved our objective, so I'm not drawing any retracements of this movement back down in. Protected low being here. Right. We are still bullish in the 15-minute despite what this candle would have you believe. But you've got to wonder if we snap this or not, which it looks like we're obviously going to. And lower we continue. 150 points right out of the gate. And that's when you might have confidence in these areas. Obviously that one is not viable right now. We now look at this, which lines up quite nicely with the midpoint of this zone. This is the power of the wombo. This is the power of the wombo, right? Where we're now stacking high probability areas on top of high probability areas on top of high probability areas. We don't need to be early, but we do need to be right. Those of you that are trading conservatively and that are building your accounts, you're looking for some sort of reaction, some sustained buying, and then the retracement that occurs from that move. Let price tell you it wants to reverse first. Ideally, we get some inducement, as that's just blasted another 100 points down into this place. Ugh. Aggressive, taking this low. You could argue that this predominant 15-minute low was taken, so we've actually taken something to the left. This is a very aggressive trade. You will need something a little bit more substantial than this unless we decide to V-bottom, which is low probability. Ideally, you get a body closure above this, and then the move down has to be defended. If that move down gets defended, now you're looking for a movement back up for your higher time frame area of interest. Your first stop is this prior zone that just got liquidated. Right? This is why your aggressive trading isn't ideal. If you're involved and you see this come back down like that, you don't want to be still in your trade. You don't know how much drawdown this is going to be. It could sweep this for a few points and then go. But strong possibility, obviously, of this blast down further. Right. So our midpoint of our higher time frame area of interest, still inside of this zone. Your higher time frame has failed above in a lethargic movement. I think we're coming for this at minimum, but that's quite the sell-off. Obviously no sign of recourse just yet. Woo-wee. And you might look at this and you might try and justify, well, you know, why is this happening? Do we care? Does it impact us at all if we know that it's because of Russia or because of Bezos selling some of his Amazon stock, or Tesla had a rough time, whatever? Doesn't impact us at all, actually. Doesn't impact us at all. Right. This fractal being a key point of interest. If we're going to manipulate, we ideally want to see a body closure above this. And then we want to see the defense. This being our last structural bear bar. That would be a higher probability that we've at least put in a short-term bottom and we're going to retrace, and now we're looking at something more like this. That's quite a bit of a retracement, but fast down, possibly fast up, who knows. We are still bullish on our higher time frame despite this movement. So you're now into this area of interest. Obviously, it's a beautiful candle. Not for shorts. Not for shorts. Morning, Tim. This is a lovely bottoming pattern, but man. Love it. There was a short-term one up here that that just kind of got held up, but there wasn't anything that came out of that, obviously. Now, the interesting thing will be if this area gets held. And by held, I mean like we dip into it and we fly. I think we need to go a little bit lower, but we'll see. Really good defense of this area so far. I'm break even at 48.50 if it comes back down. We'll see if we get a lift. If we get a lift, this is going to fly. Right, but it's very possible that we sweep down here. This is still very bearish. We got a minute and a half. A minute and a half. I'm going to take partials right now, actually. just because we're getting a little held up here. These are 40-point candles, right? Like that move alone, 28 to 93. 40 points would be consolidation candles at this point, right? What is that, like 70, almost 70 points? 1 minute? 1 minute? Right, so tapping back in, so far respecting our pocket from this. The 23.6 is at 87, we might get that. But in these higher time frame moves, if we're going to blast underneath, we don't get held up at the 23.6. We make our attempt, we fail above candles, and away we go. Right? But this is the power of the wombo. This is very, very aggressive. Very aggressive. And you see that it traded up. In fact, it couldn't quite make it there. 6, 5, 6, 7 ticks? 7 ticks. Alright, but you'll find if you're using this from the 15, well, guess what? If this gets respected on the 15 minute, boom, boom, boom. Right? We want to see this fly. We want to see this fly. Ooh, let's go. Definitely need a body closure above this, otherwise we're in a range, in my opinion. 36 seconds. Anybody riding this? Or are we just watching and waiting until 9:50? You might get another push down for the 9:50 macro, we'll see. But she's telling us she wants to retrace. This SNDR area was already dealt with. Whoop. Let's go. Just got to break above. We don't want to see continued failure here. That's obviously an area where people are taking their profits, myself included. But this could fly. This could fly. Ooh. Right? So what I like are these candles for, sorry, that's a mistake. The combination of these candles. Personally, I love seeing the market attempt to do something and fail miserably. Miserably. So when you see things like, for example, I don't really know if there is one in here. Even on like a small, like this is a small scale obviously, but the market attempted to sell off here. Whether you consider it being selling pressure, mitigation, whatever. The market attempted to go down and it failed miserably. And the next candle went, see ya. Thank you very much. The market attempted to sell off here and the response was this, which tells us we're in a higher time frame move. And if we're in a higher time frame move, I mean, at worst, we're trading up to this low here at 759, in my opinion. You could argue the top of this zone that we're now leaving, 786. Right? Yes, this 4-hour candle is still a nightmare. But if we're looking to trade up, if we wick and bounce off this and come sharply down, I'm not looking for longs because that's a higher time frame movement back down. No, thank you. Grab this, love it. Love the fractal nature, which is where the wombo really shines. Hopefully you guys are eating with me here. Let's go. Right, so trading into our higher time frame area of interest. Still nothing doing yet. You would almost expect a little bit of sell off and then maybe we would run them out. It very well could just die like this. That's fair too. If we're looking for an area of interest from a wombo perspective, then I'd pretty much draw it from this candle itself, and you're looking at 811. Not anything out of the realm of possibility, at least by the look of it right here. What's this from? Is that our, I think that's our 23.6 of this movement, isn't it? It is. Right? Well, actually it's not. This is our 23. Yeah, so that lines up. So what you're looking for is confluence, right? You've got your area of interest here from your movement down, which aligns with the 23.6, which is your target from this wombo that we just delivered from. So the market should play ping pong. Ping pong, ping pong, right? You're seeing some selling, no bear bars, mind you. If you're expecting a sell-off, whether that's here, whether that's up in here, whatever, you're not expecting weak movement. You're expecting maybe some initial ones as everybody looks at this going, well, we're flying higher. So every attempt to sell off, similar to what happened on these candles, every attempt to sell off is just immediately bought up. Which is fair considering we tapped into a 4-hour zone and we rejected hard from it. Right? But you would expect follow through here. And then after that movement potentially fails, then you're looking at this movement being violent. Because if you're a fund, you might be scaling in short, but nobody's going to just put 500 contracts right here. Right? They might have been doing that here, in fairness. And if I don't get that second movement back up that fails, then fine. Right? I'm still looking for this area here. Would I consider this area to be inverse SNDR in the 15-minute? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Right? And props to you for understanding the inverse SNDR model. I did think we were going to go a little bit higher because of the 15-minute imbalance that's being created here. We got 7 minutes, mind you. Seven minutes. I was waiting for this area or bust, but definitely was looking at the mitigation of what happens after we got back into here. Very good. Good eye. So anybody that's in short from this, essentially you do not want to see this. That means we're taking this high and will likely run down afterwards. But you want to see follow through selling. This looks like a weak bull bar, but it's still a bull bar, right? Ideally you want something like this, like just a wick gone. Wick and gone. Right? Because what are we looking at? If we're going to go higher, I'd probably draw it from, well, probably from here, if I'm honest. Look at this from a 5-minute perspective. It's down here. I can get rid of this one now. If we're going to go higher, energy, the move came from, you'd probably argue from this, right? So we're actually right inside of it right now. Obviously that failed. So you've got maybe something in here. That midpoint being 90, right? So we're looking at this. And these are just areas of potential reversal to then go higher. Once the objective is finalized, with the understanding these are aggressive still, but you got your inducement. I'm not personally long, but this would be an area that I'd be looking at. And actually I probably should be in this. That would then take us higher into this area, which would then fly. If this area doesn't get respected, then we probably continue higher, at least to this origin. We'll see. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. The interesting thing with all of this is that these markets, especially yesterday, you take a look at yesterday. Waiting for a retracement, didn't get one. Waiting for a retracement, barely got one here, in fairness. I think that was one of the only areas to look short as we created that swing. Waiting for retracement, nothing, nothing, nothing. Okay, so now we're flying, no retracements, no retracements, no retracements, no retracements. Finally got one in here, beautiful wombo that came out that we grabbed, right? Love it. Inside of our area of interest. This was actually a zone, so on and so forth, right? Okay, so it's flying. Any retracements? No, no, no. So what happens? Everybody decides we're going to chase. Chase, 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 chase. Chase it down short. Chase it up long. Chase it down short. Chase it up long. Which breeds complacency. Right? We want to let the trades come to us and then using our analysis determine whether it's a higher time frame move coming out of it or whether it's something garbage like this. We want to be part of the higher time frame moves. Now, I don't think this traded up into our area of interest, right? That actually just looks like it gave a bit of inducement. It dropped into that pocket there, but I'm still looking at this area. Or I would have been looking at this area. This obviously is not working out properly. Right? So attempts to rally, sell off. Attempts to rally, sell off. We need something pretty conclusive. If we get a body closure above, now you've got something proper to risk off of for the movement back up. Anything other than A, you're not involved. Right? So you wouldn't have gotten caught in here. You wouldn't have gotten caught in here. You're looking for something pretty specific. Pretty specific. 15 minutes now telling the story. You see many different definitions as people will use their own opinions and whatnot, but for me, anything other than stalking the optimal trading setup for your strategy, the one that you've studied, the one that you've taken however many hundreds of times in back testing and forward testing, Anything other than that is overtrading. It's not amount of trades that you've got. It's not if you've got 7 different systems and you're trading 7 different strategies and that works for you because you studied them. Good. Great. I still wouldn't consider that overtrading. I think overtrading is when you're looking at this and you're going, this is just a price action trade. I'm just going to grab this 10 points because the market's telling me there's 10 points there. Is that low probability? Probably not. Pretty clear where it's not finished its objective yet, but people run into problems when their character is tested. Everybody's good at psychology when things are going well until a period of time, and then when things are going really well and you're close to your payout or you're close to passing your first evaluation or whatever, then things fall off the rails because things are going well. That's one of the funny things about becoming consistent and successful. This is gearing up for a major move one way or another. Based on the PA, it wants to go lower, but you see it skipping around at 10 o'clock. That leg is 140 points in the last 10 minutes. Enjoy the ride one way or the other. And there will be one. My goodness. Looks like it just wants to go. This volatility might be your cup of tea, it might not be. If you're taking 10-point losses and your candles are 40 points, well, you might consider sizing down so your trade has room to move. Or waiting that extra second longer for confirmation, which normally would get you killed. But with the range, you're actually able to withstand that if you size accordingly. Right? Imagine buying the open of this candle, for example. People do, right? That went down 12 points. If you only had a 10-point stop, you would have gotten wrecked, even though your trade was correct. You got to size to the point where you can withstand it testing this low, which just got ran. Right? So again, we're looking at potential reasons of getting involved, but if there's no trigger, right? Even this, some buying, cool, bull bar, okay. Not the best one. We dropped down into it. We had a strong reaction up. That low was 95. That high is 31. That's almost a 40-point trade, just that alone, from the midpoint. Even though it failed. And when it failed, we don't want to be a part of this. This could very well just be sleeping on the 15-minute. And this is sort of just experience, right? If you've got a low like this, a strong movement up, we would actually expect this low to be tested at some point, which would give you your higher time frame failure. And if you need to understand why, well, look at what happened here. This happens on all time frames. Despite this move going from 405 to 724, 325 points, before it came crashing back down to finish its narrative. We're doing the exact same thing here. Are we staying out of trouble? Are we green? Did anybody get short? I didn't touch this short. I was looking for it to bounce and go higher, and I wasn't willing to chase in here despite it dragging bulls kicking and screaming to the low. That low being 613, that actually did close by a tick underneath this. So this would be valid if we get a body closure above that. Right. Right. So we could, in theory, clear out everything not part of structure before running, if it decides to run. You've got to look and see this not being ideal at all. So if we're drawing like even that, like that's, right? So we did this already, dealt with that, okay. We're now potentially coming back down for this low, which aligns with the pocket of this move. Not wild about this though, if I'm honest. We'll see how that goes. But definitely looking at this, which would be the last low that's not part of structure in this bullish move on a higher time frame. If it wants to clear it out and then run. You'll notice we failed right now to create a valid swing. So looking for retracements in here, despite this being consolidation right underneath that low. Not what you want to see for confirmations. As a result, that low goes. Nice swing. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. This higher time frame movement, in fact, all week has been challenging for those of you guys that enjoy your retracements. Right? When you just get these moves that don't offer much, this is where the momentum traders eat. They love it. They're obsessed with it, actually. Interesting. So Top Step just made changes. Live funded traders cannot trade XFAs. So they might call up my XFAs or whatnot to my live account. We'll see. They don't want anything else. They just send an email with the changes. Okay. No, my understanding is that so you have 3 XFAs and they're all sitting at 10K, and you have a live account that's sitting at 20. Then they'll add the 10Ks into your live account and your balance will be 50. You can only have one live account that's in their brokerage, their platform. But honestly, like the fills and everything that I've been getting on it hasn't been anything noteworthy anyways. Hey Drama, what's going on, man? TPT is 5 live. Interesting. Is that Pro Plus or is that live? I don't even know if there's a difference. I didn't think they did either. I thought they just had like an upgraded XFA. Wow, look at this out of that area. This might be inducement though, be cautious. Is it really? Didn't know that. It's interesting because Canadians aren't eligible for Pro Plus accounts, which means that they're a different level of funding than the Pro accounts. So it very well could be live. Very well could be. Because it's partnered with Tradevate, which is why they don't allow Canadians to upgrade. So you could be right. Could be right. Yes. Yes, when they called me up, I had an option to say no, thank you, just pay me out. Now this is interesting. I don't know if I would consider a retracement of this one. And I'm looking at it because we didn't take this low. Can't really even see it on the hourly. That's a 4-hour low. That's not part of structure, which is right inside of our pocket of our area of interest. So I passed on it this, at least so far. I think that it should trade up to this area of interest. Reject. Maybe we run that out and then we get something of this nature. That would be ideal for me. Can you show me draw that? That's the 4-hour zone that we're in. So the low, it's actually from the daily chart. And then I drew it to the high that I've been risking off of so far. Right, so that area was drawn to, actually, yeah, it was drawn to the high. Sorry. Yeah. Pro with a crown. Well deserved, of course. Yeah, I think you have to have 5K with TPT. They actually have a little threshold for their Pro Plus accounts. Yeah, I really like that firm. I really, really like them. They took a little while for the giveaway accounts and whatnot to be going, but I think that was just as much on us as them. Look at this. Yeah. Don't run without me. I liked this. I liked the inability to really sell off. I did expect lower. I was actually looking at this. No structure in here either. So that might have actually been something like that, I think. Man, 60 points. Hopefully you guys grabbed that. I certainly did not. Yeah, I know, right? It's like, okay, there's my daily goal in 15 seconds for some. Like, should I have held for 100 points in like 2 minutes? Should I? Maybe. Right? Violent. Midpoint of this back at 707, does that align? Even if you're looking at this, you're kind of going, I think this might get held up here at 24. Twice it hasn't really delivered for me. Where's your OTE marked from? This one? Oh, the one that I had here or this one there? That one I had, oh, sorry. I drew it from this candle, so I had this. Right, which is still a possibility, especially if we fail here and we have a movement up. That's annoying. Right, I think that you'll probably get a reaction from this area, regardless. Maybe a little bit higher. I'd probably look at the top of the zone, but wanted this. Obviously didn't get it. 100 points later. 100 points later. What I'm looking at is that we delivered beautifully into this area. We had a higher time frame move out, which makes this low weak. Right? I like the daily failure, which leads to more upside. I thought that we would get, and I was talking about this last night, this movement trades back up into here, which then like facilitates a movement back down. This was a little bit more violent than I expected, but that movement there, and then this pocket, essentially now being the 4-hour pocket, would then take you up to this here on your daily. Probably a little bit higher than that. Right, now you've got this. And then if we trade up in here and we kind of respect this area on your higher time frame, now we can possibly head lower, we'll see. I liked where this area came from on this time frame. I suppose you could even argue it should have been from there, which is even more accurate. I drew it from here, so I'm going to leave it there. But you can make an argument for the lower one. I'm being very, very choosy of my setups today. So far, only one trade. So far, only one trade. We're coming into our area of interest. Now, this is very higher time frame. Ideally, I'd want to see something like this, which then fails, right? But clearly not getting that, and that's pretty much par for the course with these higher time frame movements, right? Level to level traders are sizing down, and they're doing very, very well. We didn't take that high, I don't think. 1675, 16. It would have to close below here in order to create a valid high on this move. And I think that kind of aligns a little bit with what we were looking at here, right? So that midpoint beautifully respected. And we'll see if we get some sort of inducement, which then takes us back down. And this would be your change in order flow, possibly. Sweeping, failing at least so far. 677. Actually, that's equal lows. If that would have swept, I would have been a lot more interested. For a long, that is, to go back up into here and then see what happens after that. Be interesting to see where this ends up closing at 8 seconds. I personally think we go underneath this. 1 minute for a 5-minute imbalance. So if we go sideways and then make our move. I did hit this short as it retreated back up. Just a small scalp. As I think we kind of go sideways. I wouldn't be surprised if we failed here, which then facilitated the movement back up, and then we retrace lower. Right? But ideally as well, if we're looking for higher prices, you might get something in here at 33. I'm more inclined, because of the volatility, to be a little bit more choosy and draw it from these areas, but even then I would draw it from there. That's obviously null and void if we fail here, and then we have major failure that comes in from there. You might still get a trade out of this, but I think in an ideal situation, we have an objective, we trade up, we trade back into our pocket, we go. You could argue this objective at 11 still needs to be finalized, right? So I'm going to leave this up here. Not unhappy that I took my short off underneath these equal lows, but we'll see. If this continues failing, then we run this high at 16. Definitely on these days, if you're not reading what the market's going to do next, then you're risking like 20 or 25, you're probably risking twice as much as normal. Right? Not exactly ideal for situations where if you're just a little bit unclear on what it's doing. And I don't mean unclear as in, well, are we going up or down? Well, I mean, okay, obviously with this move, we're going up. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to continue going up, exhibit A of that, right? But you're looking at objectives and whether it's achieving them or not. This failure tells me higher, whether that's higher above this candle or whether it's actually going to fulfill this at 16 like I expect. Not relevant. But we are still going higher. Didn't tap into that imbalance. That would have been an expectation of mine. We might still do it, who knows? I'm not in a position right now though. Just marking out that 5-minute low. That's that there. Oof. Oof. Doesn't look like a sweep. We'll see if we get something into here or not, but that was violent. That was violent. Is violent, actually. It's not done yet. Mamma mia. See if we get our balance out of this. Just got to hold now on that push back down. Otherwise, we continue lower, probably to 12s or something. goodness. Right back down to the origin. No reprieve for anything as we just careen lower. Finally something taken. That might give a bit of a lift, but as it stands right now, this is wild. To nobody's surprise, given how the market's moved today so far. And I think that even drawing it from like the low to the high didn't really give anything either. This is just blasting through zone to zone by the look of it. This area would be the only one after sweeping that you would expect a bit of a bounce from, right? But at the same time, we're expecting this in a sense, right? With the possibility of these areas setting up for a long, but nothing that I really liked in terms of inducement or anything that that I would even consider going long from. We still have our pocket that we haven't really dug into. We still have our low down here at 58, which is possible. We'll see if this area provides a bit of a bounce or if we just dump. As it stands right now, it looks like it's going to be the latter. And what do we get? I suppose we can get rid of this, even though that missed by like 2 ticks. Nonsense. There's 61. By a point. By a point. I did want to take that, even though it swept here. You could argue it swept a lot of liquidity. Just not aligning with me, at least so far today. So I'm not involved in this, even though that was a beautiful bounce so far. I want that 58 low, and I want failure, if it's going to fail at all. Violent close, right? And these are the kind of candles, right? You have this attempt to rally, immediately sells off, goes here. We're going quite a bit lower, or at least underneath this. right? And now you've got to be looking at 477 if, right? But 33 seconds. 33 seconds. What a move, eh? 695, 170 in 8 minutes. Wild. Any sort of failure will probably take us back up into this at minimum. Again, no sort of structure. This is just violent movement. Violent movement as the higher time frames are retracing into the prior zone. That actually was beautiful in the 50 minute, or not 50 minute, the midpoint of this prior one. But I haven't found a way to get involved in any of this so far, other than a couple of trades that I mentioned. Lots of covering coming in here. I don't think it's done to the downside, obviously. I don't think we've had any failure either. Getting held up quite nicely. Might get a little bit of a lift. Nothing I'm entertaining long, of course. I would need to see something a little bit more. I'm not too interested in gambling the casino. Right? And that's just order flow, where it's looking like it's failing to really go lower. So that tells us a little bit higher. We don't necessarily know if it's going to trade back up to here like we thought. Midpoint of this is 61, whatever. We don't really know where that's going to go. Could have gone back up to here, I suppose. But it's just what the market's attempting to do and what it's failing to do. Nothing, certainly nothing to risk off of. Last structural candle here. You'll likely get this candle close inside of this one, but that failure there is dangerous. Beautiful sweep here on the 15-minute. Which I think is giving a lot of people relief for the bullish side as we look to trade back into this prior zone, 70s. Just nothing really structured. Nothing really structured, which is not my system and therefore staying out for right now. It's times like these I'm not really interested in fractals. If there was a smaller range, you might get these little movements that come off of them. Right? So you would kind of look at this as a speed bump, maybe trading back down. Like for example, this one that almost did it. That's what I would expect. And then moving back up to maybe an SNDR, so on and so forth. I would actually argue this is their lower time frame area that then snapped that last low that wasn't part of structure. And this ends up being a wick after we've taken it on the 4 hour. So if we're going to lift from here, we've essentially completed all objectives on this move down other than this low. Now, when does this low become strong? Right now it's weak. It failed to put in a new high. It didn't do its job. Right? In my opinion, it becomes strong when you start making 15-minute structure that now is defending it. And case in point, if you're looking at this, you're kind of looking at, right? So low, now validated, we now trade back in. You would expect this high to be weak. When is it not weak? When we had 15-minute structure formed, which then ended up taking us higher to our objective there. Trading back into this, we would expect a bit of a reaction from it. We'll see what we get. So far, not great for bears. We'll see. I heard you were a wild one. Now again, no real structure. So even if we're looking at retracements of this at 42, I say this sparingly, is every retracement I've seemed to have drawn this morning other than this long that I grabbed. This traded up, didn't quite make it to where I wanted it to. Okay. This traded up, was 2 ticks away from where I wanted it. Okay. So, you know, do we stop at 34? Who knows? We'll see. All right, she's got some work to do if she's going to fail here at all. Right, and again, like we're right inside of the pocket here on your lower time frame. If this respects, we go above this high. That's an if. I'm not jumping in on this after that candle, that's for sure. But I could be persuaded for a scalp depending on how this candle holds. Got here. That high is 46. Should trade at least to that. There it is. You don't want to see that imbalance respected. That would probably lead to much lower prices. Really good defense. Okay, my stop's below this low now. We will see if we get a lift or not. Dangerous with this imbalance, but I'm liking the reaction that I've got here so far. Granted, it's after this candle, fair enough. After sweeping this SMDR. Many reasons to look lower. I'm break even now at 38. I don't want this going back down, especially with that violent sell-off. And I'm flat. I still think we might get some higher push. That was a really, really good shove, but I didn't like the response. Didn't like the response. Love how it's respecting this area, right? The imbalance tap wasn't ideal. I think we'll get something else if it is going to go long, but not terribly interested with its urgency to the downside. We might have to go underneath this low. We'll see. And I think if we take that low, we probably take this one. Go from there. Right. One thing's for sure, there's a lot of transactions going on here. Well, it can't lift, therefore I'm out. But certainly a decision's being made right now, which might end up being an SMDR that breaks. We've got about 10 to 15 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer for the 8:30 or 8 o'clock push, sorry. That logo, 29.50, barely. Now we ride. At least to that high, probably even beyond, looking at probably trading back up into 50s, 60s maybe. If we're going to range, you're looking at potentially something like this, where it trades back up to 60s, trades back down, as it maybe builds an SMDR to then run this low. I'm down to a runner now. And again, 38, break even. If it's going to run and take this high, I want to be a part of it. If it's going to range, then this is your conservative trade, right to the 23.6 after respecting here, and looking for this, and then see if we get a trade back up into there. Like how we didn't get major failure at this. Beautiful. Beautiful. There's that next high. But you'll notice, wasn't ready in here. Granted, it respected the imbalance. We were looking at this low anyways. I like how this sort of failed, but I didn't like the response here. That tells me even if I'm right, even if we're going higher, it's not ready yet. Therefore, I'm looking at this low, maybe even that one. Got my sweep, took it as it came back in, left. Left. I'm looking at potentially trading up to 811. But the issue with this is, despite this violent movement and this failure, if we don't fail here, you can justify it with the understanding that we're actually still higher time frame bullish in retracement mode. We traded into this area already. So now we've got this area higher and potentially even into this zone, which would be like 2100s. Right? So I could actually get rid of this. Right? if this area respects, I'm not looking for longs on the way down as per this. We can draw retracements for potential bounces, where we're now looking for somewhere to risk off of to get short until the next objective gets filled. Right? And on and on and on. Did anybody grab this long after that sweep there? Or were we expecting lower, lower? Of course, you grabbed it, Tom. Legend. Look at that. 37.50. Even a better entry than me, as per usual. The man doesn't miss. The man doesn't miss. These are tricky, right? Like these are tricky. You're basically looking at, okay, we're monitoring the order flow and what the price action's doing in here to consider long. Sure, we have a dagger candle. We're obviously in a higher time frame movement down. We're trying to determine whether this is just mitigating this area here, in which case we see failure, or if this is finalized its objective and now we're going underneath that low. Inducement sweep with the wombo, yeah. I've got a target of 35. I will consider taking it off if we sweep and fail this high at 26.50. I also don't want a valid swing being put in. That would be a market close for me. Even if I'm wrong, I'm not taking the chance of giving back with this kind of volatility. Just 60, 70 points. It's already retraced 20 just in this move to move here, right? But I think that's valid, where I'm essentially risking 20 points to make potentially 40 if it goes higher. That's a valid decision for me. Grabbed, love it. Love it, love it, love it. Right, so tempted to sell off, failed miserably. Up we go. 23, 24, okay, watching that high. I probably won't give it 10 points of movement if it fails here. Right. $32, $33, bang. And flat. And now I can determine what it's going to do. 96 point banger. Whoop. Let's go. Let's go. And now you guys get to watch it potentially blast up another 70 points. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. Or die. Or die. If this fails here, I might consider a short scale. We'll see. Obviously, a higher time frame move, very, very risky. No order flow change, that would have to be underneath this low. Wow. Volatile isn't the word. But still expecting lower, we'll see. Violently being bought up. Not wild about that. I don't want this to go sideways. I think that just takes this high and continues on. And I'm flat if it comes back up to 35 here. Yep, there we go. Okay, that's all right. That's all right. That's one of those like, okay, if we get failure, I'm either out 4, 5, or 10 points or something. If I'm right, then I make, what, 40, 50, 60, more? Right? But I needed it to break this order flow. I needed to break this order flow because I'm seeing this. Like it trades up. This was the area, right? Did this and then put in that high. If this does this, well, guess what? We're still flying. And now it taps into the midpoint. This could unload from here. I just don't like the price action. I want to see finished business gone. That could be inducement that's now being swept out for a retracement now. Again, first objective would be this low here at 16. If it can't break that, you're in trouble. You're in trouble, you're in trouble, you're in trouble. Now, if it goes sideways and it just can't do any of that, then we're in real trouble. Because this could end up, well, I don't know if that would be an intermediate time frame SNDR, right in the middle of your prior range, right? So people are looking at this, right? So you got your midpoint, you've got your wombo zone. You probably actually draw it from here if you're using your lower time frame. I think that's valid. Right? I like the higher time frame area, so like this, I think it's more accurate personally from the 5. 15 is probably a little bit higher up. Right? But in terms of what you're looking for, we've got many confluences here, which is you got your midpoint, you got your wombo, now you've got the combo. You've got some inducement, failure, but it's got to break here, otherwise this high is in jeopardy. 43, which just got taken. So understanding what your objectives are in, what you need to see to stay in a trade, not just what you need to see to attack a trade. In fact, this looks like it's going to go on a rocket ship, depending on what the response to this candle is. Right? So nothing wrong with taking this short. However, being bearish, seeing this now, we're likely going above this protected high, in my opinion. Certainly above this one at 704. Right? Unless this was your accumulation inside your area, inducement, and then gone. This was an area that they just exchanged their positions. You might get a move out of the origin that trades back into it, but I'd be very cautious of shorts until we break this. We might get a movement back in, and then looks for this 811. And you guys got 4 minutes until 8 o'clock. I would be very cautious shorting out of this area. You probably get a movement out of there, but I wouldn't be cautious of it. In fact, that's probably now shocker, right? I think that area is done, personally. So I'm actually going to take it off. I think it's safer to look for, you got lower time frame, maybe lower time frame movement if we trade back up into here to then break this high. We'll see, we'll see. 15-minute imbalance above that 86 high. I think it's valid to suggest that we're going to trade back up to the midpoint of this zone, which will be the 800s. But again, you got to be looking at this high being taken, this manipulation now. But you got to break structure first. Got to break structure first. Are we green today, lads? Are we just watching with the volatility? How are we looking? Did we eat? No trades? Okay. Does everybody understand why this movement going sideways and then explosive, we're looking at this high now? Right? Green, not many trades, okay. Good to be sparingly with your trades here. I actually took that by a tick. One and done, 40 points. That's beautiful. Love that. It's something else when you have 200-point swings. I get it. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. Very red today, okay. Did we get chopped up looking for retracements back in? Not ideal for bears, this movement at all. They want to see death. They're not seeing death at all. Be interesting to see if we sweep down again, but be looking for quite a bit higher here as we build this lower time frame SMDR to take us. Be interesting to see if we get our retracement first, but I think that she's not going to fail here if she's going to take that high, personally. Nasty sweep, not convinced. Didn't manage my risk from volatility. So there goes that high. We can, if you want to send me some of them for critiquing, Sean, and we'll have a look at the strategy and the mindsets and sort of what you were thinking, and we'll go over them. That's fine by me. One loss, top step X, delay in execution, thought I didn't go through, clicked again, filled two, couldn't close one. Yeah, hopefully they've been having some problems lately. Even on their live accounts, they've been having problems. So I'm not surprised. Hopefully they reset or do something like that for you. Right. Broke structure. We'll see if this trades back down or if we liquidate both of these on the way up. Could you please go over how you built your narrative for higher prices? Okay, I'll do that, and then I'll have to call the stream as I have to drive. And then we might hop on. The community day will be open, by the way, for everybody that's in here that's not part of our group. And we'll be live in there. We'll open it up for post-market as well. So, narrative for higher prices. We had, let's take that off for a sec, and we'll remove everything. So we're trading up to something. The market doesn't just move up for whatever purpose, right? This failure here told us we were going higher. We did that. If we're going to fail lower from there, we're essentially looking at this, right? So that explains this move, which happened yesterday. Rallied off of that. Okay, so now we're respecting what? We're respecting our lower time frame area, right? Yes, we're on the 4 hour, but we're looking at this in the context of the 4 hour. Here's our lower time frame in the mix of our higher time frame price delivery, right? So we're respecting here, we go higher. If this area doesn't respect, then we careen lower. Or if we get some movement here that then fails at the 23.6. We didn't get either of those, which told us higher. Higher to where? Right? So now we're drawing this. Bang. Right inside of our area of interest, failed, came down, and now we're looking at the same sort of thing. So this failure here, not ideal, what we want to see in terms of this candle. Ideally, you get something like this, and then you get some sort of failure that happens afterwards, after we've confirmed a high. For example, this low failed. We now confirmed above these highs up here. So now we can look comfortably for a retracement. This is obviously less clear. This traded back down. We then swept out all of our objectives other than this weak low. And when you guys are starting to learn market structure, you'll start to look at things like, well, this low is weak, but that doesn't necessarily apply on higher time frames as well as it does on lower ones. And the reason is because you've got a lot of different moving parts in your higher time frame where you might look at some change in order flow that occurs in here, which now makes this low strong. And we're not done to the upside yet. So does that mean we're going to take this high at 905 today? Not necessarily. It very well could, right? It could fail as well at 800. But if we're looking at this sharp movement down, we've got objectives here. We had this one at 58, was it? Where was it? That one there. Thank you. And we're looking at how price interacts with it. So sharp movement down, retracement up. Not exactly where we wanted it. I wanted it here. Didn't get it. Right? You could argue probably from this low if you're drawing it from where the energy of the move came from. But quite honestly, with this high, I would have been looking higher. Didn't get it. Okay. Moving on. Right? So valid high created, not looking for any retracements in here. There might be movements up to then get short, which is what I was looking for. Didn't get it. Okay. Broke this low, retracement back in to the midpoint. In hindsight, probably should have drawn it something like this, but I had it from the 5 minute area, which was a little bit higher than that, I believe. I think it was like this. So didn't quite get that. Which I'll look at later on. Breaks this low, also breaks that low we were talking about. We then get our tap into our SNDR here, which broke that low. And we traded back down, but we respected the lower time frame. So recall what we were saying here about this movement trading in, respecting here, leading to higher prices. It works on all time frames. We grab this low, rocketed higher. Okay, so now we're looking at the personality of the chart is down, up, down, right? We're creating structure here. We would expect this. Now what? We trade in here. As you guys know, I did take that short. I made money on it, but I didn't get what I wanted. I wanted a change in order flow. Sideways not failing, how different is that from this? Very different, which means what? Major change in personality. What does it also mean? It means we're building an intermediate time frame SNDR to break what? A protected high. We then build a lower time frame SNDR, snap above it. Now, should this liquidate, now you're looking for a retracement back down. You'll probably find something wherever this ends up. My guess is it'll end up right about, it'll take this high and then you'll get a retracement back down. So you might get something like this. 815, maybe 826, let's say 820, 825, right? And now what ends up happening is your pocket that we're looking for a major retracement from after breaking all this structure is now a deep movement back to your intermediate time frame SNDR, which is beautiful because now you're looking for a sharp movement out from there. But you'll notice that we're predicting this sort of stuff potentially 3 hours in advance from when it happens, right? I gotta run. Hopefully you guys are green today, and we'll be live in chat later on. We will talk very, very soon. Okay, you guys have a good rest of your morning until I'm back, and trade safe for sure with this volatility. Cheers.